Hey, we're back. It's good to see you. I want to talk about character flaws versus character features and how to know the difference. Now, this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately because I live in a community house. It's no different from living with a family or anyone that you have to coexist with. I have recently reflected upon my living situations and learned that I actually have lived in community most of my life. I had roommates in college, of course. Most of us do. And after college, I lived in a sort of waterside, beautiful, like this very old wooden shack of a house that used to be a fishing lodge, and then it was built up to become a sorority house, and then it was built further to become like an actual home. So it was just this like very funny pastiche of extended parts on the home over time that have different narratives and purposes, and it very much resembled the people who lived inside of it. I think there were about 5 of us living there. Maybe there were 6 at one point because of the couple. Rolling Stones, just rolling stones together, sitting out on the front porch and drinking coffee and watching the kayaks go by. And then after that, I lived with several, actually, disaster relief bases. So in any case, I say all of that to tell you that I have a lot of experience coexisting with people, and coexisting with people is really hard, or it can be. It brings up a lot of mirrors. There is a spectrum of self-awareness, and some of us are further along on that spectrum than others, and that's neither here nor there. The purpose of this video is not to moralize self-awareness, but rather to share what I've learned in something that I've personally struggled with in the event that other people are struggling with this too. I have found historically in my experience with this learning process, I would always take everything everyone said into consideration. If someone had a complaint about me, I took it as fact. I was like, oh my God, I'm a jerk. I shouldn't have done that. I have to change. And I found over time that I didn't understand myself. And I didn't know who to believe either, because some people would complain about the same thing that someone else preferred or something in my behavior. And I was unconsciously outsourcing approval for my own behavior. I was outsourcing approval for my own actions in the perspectives of others. And I didn't know that I was doing that. I just thought that that's what it meant to be a considerate human being. I thought being considerate means doing everything people tell you to do. Making other people happy. I'm older now, in my late 30s, and I've been doing this thing for a while now. The home that I currently live in, it's not a senior citizen's home. It's just my home. The house that I live in, there are 6 of us here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've been here for 5 years. And there's been a revolving door of folks that I have had to share this space with. And I'll correct myself and say, I had the privilege of sharing this space with, and they're all different. And I've learned a lot. And when I first moved here, it was a lot harder on me to maintain my inner peace. And so I want to share with you how I consider what other people's opinions about me mean to me, and how that might help you strike the balance between loyalty to self and compassion for others. The first thing is it something I can change? And I know this seems silly. Why would anyone complain about something that someone else can't change? That happens all the time. And this has happened to me. I've always been naturally slim. For whatever reason, people think that it's appropriate to comment upon someone's weight if they're slim. And especially for women, people just think it's okay to talk about women's weight. I took criticisms about my weight to heart. I was like, oh, I'm too skinny. I need to eat more food. I need to, thicken up or whatever. And I ruined my gut doing that. I am naturally slim. And so now when folks make comments about like my weight or something, I'm like, it has nothing to do with me. But anyway, that's just an example. The first and most important thing to do is to ask whether you can change the thing. If it's something that cannot be changed, it is not worth considering. It's something that needs to be accepted. If a person can't accept something about you that you are not able to change, whether that be a physical feature, a race, country of origin, or anything, any impermeable identifier, then that's on them. That there's really nothing more to consider there. And I think that's important. When it comes to striking the balance between compassion and self-loyalty, this is a very easy place to draw a very firm boundary for self-protection. I don't really know what more there is to say there. I really feel the urge to keep hammering in on that one because I feel very self-righteous about it for some reason. But I think I made my point. Let's just talk about it in the comments. The second thing is it something you're willing to change? This is a trickier one where the boundary is not so clear, because just because you're not willing to change something doesn't mean that you shouldn't. So how do we find clarity here? Well, I think what's helpful is to ask about universal impact and hurting other people. And now hurting people is not the same as making other people uncomfortable. And I think a lot of social commentarians would agree that maybe we have pop therapized ourselves into a state of general fragility. It's not dangerous for other people to be uncomfortable in your presence. It's worth considering. Perhaps it is a flaw and not a feature. If you find that you're receiving feedback from others that is consistently referencing true hurt, like hurt feelings or lack of consideration, a neutral or even positive trait that doesn't align with everyone's preferences and makes people uneasy, is not the same as something that hurts another person. And a few examples of that might be being direct, needing solitude, being introverted, having high standards, being highly independent, needing connection. These things are just like their needs that you have, and their ways of being whose impact may make others uncomfortable or make others feel however it makes them feel, but it isn't something that is rude or inconsiderate or disrespectful intentionally. And an example of something that would fall into that category would be perhaps interrupting others frequently because you're feeling anxious, or being a slob. That's not, you can't just be like, well, I'm lazy. You can be lazy in your own bedroom. With the second one about willingness, you need to just consider what the difference between hurt and discomfort is. And that's one where I think more skill and experience and really journaling and reflecting upon your interactions with people is going to be required to really hit this one. This is the one that I think is this is kind of the meat of the whole episode. How do you know? In my experience, some of this is still a mystery to me about why I'm perceived in certain ways. So it's something I'm still exploring without ruminating, because it's like there's only so much that you can control, and there's only so much that other people's opinions about one should really matter. One should only really consider any of this insofar as it is valuable for peaceful coexistence with other human beings and civilized mutual respect. Otherwise, live your life and don't fucking worry about what other people think about it, is my opinion, which I know is a very Western individualistic mantra that I also would like to discuss in another episode. And if you would too, then I encourage you to mention it in the comments. Anyway, where were we? I don't remember. We went over, is it something you can change? Is it something you're willing to change? And then finally, is it something that you should change? And I guess the should and the willing are kind of combined, because if it's something that you should change, if it is just an inconsiderate behavior, and hopefully you're in the presence, or you have a circle full of human beings who will let you know, it's something that you will need to be willing to change. But if it's something that you should change and you're not willing to change, perhaps you might take that information and consider ensuring that you're surrounding yourself with people who can really accept that. You might find, in sticking with this example, that it's just more difficult for you to find people who would want to embrace flaws. So you need to find people who really love you, or who don't find them a flaw, who find it a feature. So, and that's entirely up to you. But as long as you have the self-awareness to recognize that that's sort of something that you intend to live with and embody, then you can always communicate. Hey, I just so you know, people tend to think that I'm sort of messy. It doesn't really bother me very much to have personal items lying around. If it's really important to you to have a leave no trace policy in communal living areas, then this probably isn't going to be a good fit. I don't know. I can think of worse things, but I'd rather not live demonstrate an example of how to justify poor behavior. So use that one conscientiously. So those are the examples that I have for you today. Those are some ways that you can consider being considerate. I hope that this has helped you, and let's just keep being great members of the human race. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Is that something I'm willing to change? No. What did I say? What's that word? I feel like the word baggage has such negative connotations. We all have baggage. That's a personal problem. Goodbye.